Leigh Richardson is here. She's a licensed professional counselor. And Leigh, I think the last time we spoke, I made you a doctor before you're a doctor. So, and I want it to be special when it does happen next year. So welcome back to the program.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're also the founder of the Brain Performance Center in Dallas and the author of the book, Turn Your Brain On to Get Your Game On, the How, What, Why to Peak Performance. And this is the time of year when people obviously stress out about everything. I think like 90% of it's family. Because you got all the family in the world coming over, or you're going over to their house. And I don't know if this year is any different compared to years, the past 4 or 5 years with regard to stress. We still have pretty much the same stressors in our life, don't you think?
I do think we do. And, I think about 90% of it is in our head.
I think you're right, actually. I know a lot. I've been watching The Secret. I think I watched it when it came out back in, 2008 or whatever. And, the happiness is a decision. And I have a lot of friends that tell me that you just got to decide you're going to be happy. Does that really work?
Well, I think it is a choice. And I think that we need to stop and think about, we're so worried. We set these expectations that are so incredibly high. And we're setting ourselves up almost for unhappiness. Because when you stop and think about that, Leigh, are you really going to bake 5 dozen cookies for the class party? And Leigh, do you really need to bake 5 dozen cookies?
Right.
No. But you get that, you set that expectation in your head, and then when you don't meet it, you're unhappy about it, and you feel a little bit like a failure.
How do you keep from doing that? Because I'm guilty of that, too. I can have a day where I get an immense amount of work done, and yet I will still be hard on myself because I'll say, well, you could have gotten to this, too, and it never ends. How do you keep from beating yourself up over it?
Well, I think goals can play a really strong role. And if you set your goals, and at the end of the day or the week, what your time frame is, you look and you see what you accomplished. Instead of what we tend to see is just what you said, Brett. I coulda, I shoulda.
Right.
Man, you got to get rid of those shoulds. They'll bring you down.
Yes, they will. They will. They get in your head, and I stop sometimes and I'll think, would I be this hard on somebody that was like working for me if they were doing these things? At the end of the day, would I be like, you should have gotten this done too? And I think, well, no, I wouldn't. So why am I doing it to myself? And I wonder where that comes from. I mean, I guess it's learned behavior over the years, isn't it?
Well, I think it's negative thoughts. I think we get those negative thoughts rumbling around in our head, and sometimes it's on a conscious level, and sometimes it's on a subconscious level. We're not even really aware of it. And then all of a sudden we start, I used to have the worst case of the shoulds. You should do this. You should do this. And I said, that was dragging me down. I replaced the shoulds with the coulds. I could do this. I could do this. Well, that's good. I like that. I'll do it. But you've got to reframe those negative thoughts in your head and focus on what you can control. And I think that's the daily, day in and day out, there are so many things that we cannot control, but they are such huge stressors in our life. And who gives them that power? We do.
See, everything you're saying, I know deep inside, and then I get upset at myself for not, why didn't you just do this stuff beforehand? And is there a difference, and I learned this a long time ago, and I don't know if it's true or not, but before you go to bed at night, if you're laying there and you're like, okay, I'm going to wake up feeling great. I'm going to have a lot of energy. I'm going to, be ready to face the day. Does that stuff help? Does that really train our brain?
Well, I think that's positive psychology, and I certainly think that makes a difference. Instead of saying to yourself, tomorrow's going to be awful, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to be so exhausted, and nothing's going to work right. And I think if you put that out there, that's certainly what happens.
And this is something else that I learned long ago. I'm going to get charged for this session. I know it. When I learned that if you say it out loud, in other words, as opposed to just saying it in your brain, it's going to be a great day in my brain. If you say it out loud because it comes out of your mouth and actually goes into your ears, is there any research that you're aware of that actually makes a difference as opposed to just sitting there and thinking tomorrow's going to be a great day?
Absolutely, there's research that supports that. And affirmations, there is so much research behind using affirmations, and you can't just think them. You've got to say them out loud. It's just like with gratitude. I'll think at the end of the day, I'm really grateful for this. And then I'll stop and say, have you expressed that gratitude to anybody? My gosh, because when does it become powerful? When I go express it to someone and say, I'm so grateful that you did that to help me. So the power of speech, because think about what goes on in the brain. You've got to recall the words, and then you've got to integrate them together with a thought. I mean, there's a whole lot of processing going on to be able to speak it. And when you do it, it becomes a whole lot more real.
That's so good. So I did learn something that was true all those years ago. All right, I'm going to stick with that one. Have you ever seen a movie called What the Bleep Do We Know?
I haven't seen it. I have heard about it.
All right, that to me, and I again, it's a lot of the, it's a positive affirmation. It's even negative affirmation. There's a one particular storyline is the woman with the red wine, and she's so nervous. She's so nervous that that she's going to trip and spill the red wine all over her white dress or whatever it is, and she's so nervous that she's going to do that. She actually, thinks it into existence. And
I see that happen.
Yeah, and I was going to say that's positive affirmation. I mean, your brain just hears, "I'm going to spill the wine on me." It doesn't hear, "I'm not going to spill wine on me." So there is something to that as well when you are deciding, or whether you're when you're vocalizing what you are going to do or what you're going to avoid doing. Let's say I'm not going to, I'm going to walk into a room and I'm going to be confident, as opposed to saying I'm going to walk into the room and I'm not going to be shy. There's something to that as well? Okay.
Absolutely. Right. And I think, we get when we're worried about something, we get so caught up. That poor lady's walking across the room, watching every step that she takes, and she doesn't see the gentleman to her right coming right at her, and she spills the wine.
Right. Yeah. It's pretty amazing what our brains will do. So where can people find you on the interwebs?
They can find me on LinkedIn, Leigh Richardson. They can find the Brain Performance Center on the good old-fashioned internet and Facebook and Instagram.
Cool. It's always fun talking to you. I appreciate it, and have a great holiday. Talk to you soon.